Welcome everybody to the off-road workshop. Tonight is all about mapping and GPS. And my name's Chris, and I'm gonna kind of walk you guys through sort of my process of actually planning a trip. And I'm gonna use the new Oregon Backcountry Discovery Route as sort of the test bed. So I'll show you kind of how I take their map information and the tools, and we'll go through a demo of GAIA GPS, and I'll show you how to import a track and how that will populate onto your mobile devices in your vehicle, and show you kind of how awesome this tool is to use. So let's get into it. All right. So first of all, when I'm planning a route, I always start usually with paper, because with paper I can get a very detailed global view of the entire route. Whereas, with a computer, it's like, I've got a global view, but I can't see any detail. I've got to zoom all the way in before I can see road names and points of interest and stuff. And that's kind of a painful process for me. It may not be for you, but I'm gonna use the Oregon Backcountry Discovery Route map. When you're planning to do one of these BDRs or any trip, try to find the paper map of the general area that you want to go explore. Like, Chris, we have technology. Why do I need a stupid paper map? This is 2023. The main reason is when you're out in the middle of nowhere, this doesn't run out of batteries. That's literally the main reason. Actually, also too, because I can't tell you how many times I've been at a spot on a known route, and my GPS will say one thing. I look at the paper map, it'll say one thing, and I'll look at, one of these guys, and it'll say another thing. And it's like, I know where I'm at on all these three things, but they all are saying I'm on a, like a different road number or something. So there's a lot of, when people transcribe maps to this and vice versa, it's not always 100% accurate. They try their best. I can't imagine having to digitize something like this. What a nightmare that would be. But anyway, so for tonight's exercise, I want to do the Oregon BDR. So I'll grab the paper map, and I'll just kind of start taking notes of what's what, the start and end point of the route. And I'll actually start studying it. And the main things you want to know, and we'll go into more of the planning side of it next month's off-road workshop, but the main things you want to pay attention to is obviously fuel stops. Where are the towns? Where can I get fuel? You'll also want to look at, points of interest. The whole point of doing one of these routes is to explore and to see an area that you've never really gotten to mess around in. So look for like little offshoots of, if there's some ice caves or lava tubes or a fire lookout or some cool like mountaintop you can get onto, or a lake or a swimming hole, all that kind of stuff, fishing hole, whatever. That all makes the trip just much more exciting rather than just driving. And driving's fun. I love driving in the backcountry. That's why we do it. But gosh, it's nice to get out of the truck and go hike around and explore. And also, obviously, maybe sort of planning out some potential camping sites or areas that you may want to try to camp in. But I would say be flexible on that, because you just never know what happens. All right. So another good thing on these maps is on the other side of them. So on one side, I'll hold it up so everybody can see. On one side of the map, you've got sort of the global picture. And on the other side of the map, you've got all the sections. Each section, they break it down by different sections. You've got all the sections in great detail. And my favorite thing that they put on these maps, thankfully, is the scale on the bottom. And that shows you the entire route, excuse me. That shows you the entire route in a elevation graph and distance graph, and it breaks it up, showing you distance between known fuel stops. So helpful. So you already know that, you look in between. Sorry, you can't see this, but section 1, they say, is 149.3 miles from the start to the next gas station. And you guys knowing your rigs know that, okay, if I'm in low range on trails all day long, chugging along, I can get, 200, 250 miles per tank. So it's like, oh, cool. That gives me 100 mile surplus in range before I would need to top up. Cool, I can do that. Or if you're like, dang, 150 miles in my truck, which gets 1 mile per gallon, that's going to be pretty tough. So you may have to carry some extra fuel to get to that next known fuel stop. Does that make sense? So from just a logistical planning tool, this graph is probably the most handy. And so the folks that make these routes, these backcountry discovery routes, they're dual sport motorcycle folks that you can kind of see from the pictures. They don't have big gas tanks, so they really like to know where their gas is. But it's such a good tool for us four-wheel drivers. Okay, cool. We got the map. We've got a paper map. I take this with me on the trip, and I'll have each section kind of open to where I'm at in the day. And just one more quick little tip before we start diving into the real nerdy stuff is, on the trip every morning, I will, actually sometimes in the evening before, if I'm in camp, and we got nothing going on, I'll open up the maps and just kind of look at the next day's section and just sort of start looking at some detail of, oh, hey, this might be cool to go check out, or this, whatever. You kind of plan that day based on how the previous day went. And that kind of gets you into a nice little rhythm and gives you, some fun goals to shoot for the following morning rather than just trying to get through the next section. Butler Maps is the company that prints the maps. If you go to, here, I have the technology. Observe here, won't you? Let's go to ridebdr.com. And it magically takes us to took us to the Oregon page. I must have been there recently. Anyway, ridebdr.com, we'll just go to their homepage. These are the folks that are putting all these routes together. And you can see on the hover over, look at all these dang routes that they've made for all these states. And pretty exciting. So anyway, I just, we'll go through this here in a second, but that's kind of where you can get it. They have a store, you can order it online too. Okay, the next tool that I like to bring, so I'll have this. I don't even know if they still make these dang things. I think they do. I think you can still find these gazetteers or atlas. I like the DeLorme's. Benchmark is another one. There's a couple brands that are out there. I like these. Garmin owns these people. Garmin does a decent job with their mapping stuff. These are a great thing to have. And the reason why I like these is, again, I can get a global view of a region that I'm in rather than the whole state. Now I've got, page 78, right, which is that in immense, awesome detail. And it shows me, topography, shows me water, shows me points of interest. But the main thing I like to do is I will actually go through and transcribe the BDR using highlighters on this map, on this book. And it sounds super nerdy and kind of annoying and obnoxious, but you know what? Just do it. It's just a great way to I actually like to have, if I know I'm doing this section here around Newberry Crater, Plana Lake and all that, I'll have this section open, sitting in my passenger seat or in between the two seats, so I can always glance at it and see where we're at and see if the GPS is still taking me where I hope we're going. So use the highlighter, transcribe your route over to this. It does two things for you. One, if your GPS takes a dump on you, you still have the route, right? That's more detailed, honestly, than this big map is. And two, it causes you to go through and scan the route in very intimate detail. I usually do it on the computer, so I have a big monitor, but it causes you to kind of scroll through and pay attention to every little zig and zag, and it just gets your eye calibrated for the route. And you get sort of tuned into everything that you're doing. And as you're transcribing the digital route onto this with your highlighter, you start noticing cool stuff. You're like, oh, dang, there's a lake here. Oh, there's an ice cave. There's a lava cave. That'd be kind of cool to go check out. And you start seeing more things that are along that route that helps you in the planning phase, helps you in the mapping phase and the navigation phase, and honestly makes the experience just so much more fun. So do that. And I'll, I just say, get one of these for your state that you're going to explore and transcribe the route. It's such a fun way to spend a Friday night. It really is. I mean, I don't know what else you would do. Cool. All right. Any questions on paper maps? I'm not going to go into like, full on like navigation with compass and stuff on that. That's, I think, a little bit more of an advanced level class. I just want to sort of familiarize everybody with some of the good basic tools that are out there and then go into some of this stuff. You guys good with that? Cool. All right. We're going to keep trucking along. So my process is I get excited and I'm like, cool, there's a new route. I want to go explore the backcountry of Oregon. All right. I've now looked at this map and I've realized that's pretty cool. That's fun. I want to do that. So I'll go to their website. I'll download the GPS track for free. All right. You can just, I won't show you guys how to actually download something. I hope everybody can figure that out. But I happen to have it downloaded here. Where did Finder go? It disappeared. So when you download a GPS track from these folks, they give it to you in a .gpx file. There's a lot of different file versions for GPS tracks. I'm not really going to go into the differences between them because who cares? This is basic. So it's a .gpx file. What's nice about a .gpx file is it will upload into just about anything, including like Google Maps, Apple Maps, all kinds of stuff. Any mapping application can take a GPX file. So I'll download the file. I've got the route. If you double click the file, most computers don't know what to do with it because it's a weird data file of a bunch of random points. Anyway, so I got the route. I downloaded it. We're going to jump back over to Gaia here. Enough of that. And for my planning, I want to get the route into my map because right now it's not in here. Super top secret though, real quick. Notice there's a big route across the state of Oregon here. That is the OG, the original Oregon Backcountry Discovery Route. That was made decades ago. That's really pretty and fun doing and takes you through a different part of the state. I highly suggest it. Let me back up a little bit. There's several mapping apps out there that will work on desktop and mobile. I've been using Gaia for a long, long time. I volunteer for search and rescue. Our search and rescue team in the sheriff's office thought that Gaia is sufficient for doing search and rescue. So it's pretty darn good for going out and playing in the backcountry. But what's cool about it is when you create an account with Gaia, I don't even get anything from Gaia. This is just literally just talking about it. So they should give me royalties or something. When you create an account with Gaia, you can log into your account online and you can log into your account on your devices and it will auto sync anything you do on one or the other. So if I download the route here and then I go to my iPad and open it up, drop it on the table and open it up and sign in or log in, I have it auto log in, it'll automatically show a spinning wheel saying that it's updating real quick and it'll populate the route. Pretty cool. So you only have to upload it once, and it's much easier, obviously, to do all that in the computer than it is on a little mobile device. So I always start on the computer with any trip. So let's get the route in here. So import data, select files, Oregon BDR. We're just going to import it. And it shows all these little things here, and you're like, holy moly, that's a lot of information. But what's cool is they put a lot of cool points of interest in their route with these little waypoints. That's for free. These GPS tracks are free. So they've got, obviously, the route itself, and then all of these points of interest. Holy moly, that's awesome. Cool. I'm going to save it. And you're going to sit here and wait like we do for tons of things. I bet you, what do you think? Do you think we've spent maybe a full year of our lifespan nowadays waiting for like the spinny wheel of things, the status bars? I bet you it's at least that. Wouldn't you say? Okay, so it's in there, right? It magically just appeared on here, and you notice everything else is kind of grayed out. You can see some of my other information here, but it's primarily highlighting my route, so it's in there. And the other cool things that's cool is like, you know, I can share it. I can export this back out as a GPX file and send it to other people. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with that. Don't care about that. I want to figure out the route. So These backcountry discovery routes are designed typically to go from a south to north travel, unless otherwise stated in the maps. But you'll notice the map will always have usually the start icon down at the south end. So it's best to go the direction that these guys intended it to be, because you're seeing the route in a manner that they designed it to. I mean, why not get that experience? They've done all this work. You might as well enjoy it in that direction. Plus, last thing you want to do is come around the corner and run one of these guys over on a bike, because most of these guys are going south to north. So you just want to be careful. Usually go with the flow of traffic. Everything is on public roads, be it BLM, Forest Service, whatever. But yeah, so south to north. So let's start at the south. Oop, that's the old route. So here's the start of the Oregon BDR. So I'm down here. We're not too far out of Fields. All right, so there's Fields, Oregon. And you can do this all, like I said, in Google. The reason I'm using GAIA is it's kind of backing up a little bit, but the reason I like to use GAIA is it works really good and it's very efficient offline. So when you have no cell service, no data connection whatsoever, and you've already pre-downloaded the state of Oregon, you're good. Like, you've got full map of the entire state of Oregon in great detail on your phone, so you can be out in the middle of nowhere. And as long as you have a view of the sky and your phone has a functioning GPS antenna and battery life, you'll be able to figure out where you're at and where you're going. So GAIA works really, really good for that. But this similar kind of process in Google, if you wanted to do Google. And Google will offline maps, but it's a bit clunky to do it, I find. Fields, by the way, so that you notice they have a little icon here. We'll click on it. Cool. Gas, food, lodging. That's really good to know. So good if you get out there, you'll top up into Fields. But this is where all it's also a really good burger and shake place in Fields, just saying. It's good. When you're out there and you've been camping, it's good. Trust me. It's good enough. I'll put it that way. It's good enough if you want a greasy spoon kind of a burger joint. Anyway, if you're desperate. Look, if you're hungry, come on. Right. So I'll zoom in to the kind of the start of the route, right? Well, they didn't really mark the location. They just say that there's gas there. Okay, whatever. Cool. I'll start the route and I'll figure out, okay, I'm in Denio Fields. Where am I on this whole mess? Oh, probably 86. There's Fields. So I'll go to page 86. This is the really fun part. This is where you get to use colors. Cool. I'm on page 86. I'll whip out my marker, highlighter, and I'll look at this map and I say, okay, it starts from Denio on Denio Road or Highway 292 and just heads north just before Fields and then peels left. So I'll go to here. I'll find Denio. I'll highlight up onto that. Okay, it makes a left turn. What's the left turn before Fields? You'll zoom in, Domingo Pass Road. Cool, there's Domingo Pass Road, and I'll highlight it, and I'll just start following the track and highlighting it and transcribing it to my analog copy. Just so good to do. It takes time. It'll probably take you, give it as much time as it takes you to get it accurate, because that's really the main thing. You want it accurate. There are times where you'll see a GPS track cuts through a place, and you're looking here and you're like, there's no road on this map. Just draw the line. Because it's there, trust me. These things are out of date. I don't know if this one's probably super old. I've had it forever. Roads change. Once it's printed, it's out of date. Yeah, 2008, so it's a ways out of date already. Anyway, and that's kind of the process of just going through, scrolling through, and transcribing the route. Now, they break down the route into colored sections. So they figure for a bike, big old dual sport like BMW GS or a KTM or some big old heavy bike, that you can get through a section per day is what they recommend. And you'll see that there's lots and lots of colored sections. So they're calling this route on a bike maybe like 8 days, 7-8 days to do the route. My word of advice is don't feel like you have to do the whole dang route in one shoot. If you end up finding a place that's a really nice place to camp or a nice hot springs where there's nobody there and you just want to stay there another night, you're on vacation. Stay there another night. Who cares? The route's not going anywhere. Have fun. Enjoy your trip. So anyway, I'll go through and I'll just get each section done. You'll notice here that there's a little offshoot in red. That's because they usually do alternate routes, which would be this little section here, for, you know, snow melt issues. So this is around Hart Mountain and Adams Butte. It gets up there in elevation. You can zoom in and you can see that, oh yeah, it's getting north of 7,000 feet in places. Right, so you could get up there in June, potentially, and even have some snow. But they've already figured out an alternate route for you, which is super handy. I think the other thing too, if you have social media, they have like a Facebook group for each route that will have almost real-time updates from people that do the route. People will usually post if there's an issue or something. Also on their website, they have a section with route updates. And they'll even, if there's enough significant updates where like a whole road gets washed out, or like on the Washington BDR, for example, there was a section of the route that burned in one of the big fires a couple years ago. They'll actually redo the GPS track for you and say, hey, there's an updated track, download this one. So it's just a really good group of folks to support. Anyway, so we're gonna go through and transcribe everything. And if there's stuff that I like and I'm interested in, what does it say? Warner Valley Scenic Overlook. I'm gonna click on that and just create a point. Oops, I clicked on the track. Don't do that. I'll just create a point. I've got a marked location and I can reposition it. And you can relabel it, you can do whatever you want, but you can just say, look, I wanna go here. I wanna do something fun here. I found a campsite that I really wanna stay at. You know, let's say, well, that's a campground. Let's find something else. Here, Heart Lake. I've actually never been to Heart Lake, but I'm sure it's beautiful. Click right there. So you can create a waypoint. I can create an icon. I like to use campsites. I'm going to mark it as a campsite, and I'll call this, you know, Lake View Camp. Totally awesome. Whatever. I can't spell, but you can label the stupid thing. You can put some notes in like, hey, this spot is super good for camping, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you want, you can start marking out potential places you want to camp. And you hit save. And this is now attached to your track, which is attached to your account. This is all in your account. So if you download and log in on your phone or your tablet, this will all magically appear. Anyway, so I like to go through on this kind of mapping phase and figure out places that I potentially want to camp that look interesting. I'll take note of existing campgrounds, but I always like to try to camp dispersed if I can, just because it's more fun. A lot of their little waypoints, though, I'll be sure to click on, because I still want to see, you know, what's in plush. Okay, they have a store, gas, food. That's super awesome. Just good things to know. And you'll just keep scanning and learning and adjusting and figuring out what's in your area in each section, and then through that transcribe process. But that transcribe process, you can kind of see how it just forces you to really get in and study the route and the areas that you're exploring. And you'll see that, you'll find all kinds of crazy stuff, like fire mountain lookouts, hot springs and stuff on the maps. You'll see all kinds of cool stuff. I'll zoom out here a little bit. So let me get all of Oregon here. So the old BDR route is here. Goes Goose Lake up along the Summer Lake Rim, just outside of Paisley, through Christmas Valley, not too far from Cowboy Dinner Tree. Shameless plug here. Go to Cowboy Dinner Tree, make a reservation, eat some dead cow or dead chicken. That's all they have, nothing else. So if you're vegetarian, I'm sorry, don't go to Cowboy Dinner Tree. But
yeah, you have to make a reservation.
You got to make a reservation, otherwise they won't seat you. Reservation only, cash only. Just go there. Anyway, it's an old Western kind of a chuck wagon kind of place. It's one of the best steaks I've ever had. There's a lot of little places out in the middle of nowhere that have really good steaks and really bad steaks. And this is one that's really, really good. They have a really good connection with a rancher in Paisley, where they get a lot of their beef from. They make everything scratch there, including. Let's just talk, you guys. It's 6:30. It's dinner time. Let's talk about Cowboy Dinner Tree. I digress. All right.
Pull up their website.
The website's pretty terrible, actually. Is it? Well, actually, it's gotten better. You know, but here, look. This is stuff that you find from scanning maps and like just super nerdy stuff. Like you find little treasures. Like, well, there it is. Clearly, I've been to their website before. It has gotten better. Wow, that's the restaurant right there.
I think they have a little cabin there you can rent.
So they do have cabins to rent. It's there's.
Are we stopping now and just all driving?
We may have to. It's about a 4-hour drive from here. Trust me, I know. I've been there.
You get a whole chicken.
So they have two things on the menu. So when you make a reservation, look, this is part about making these routes. By the way, on the California South BDR, there's another great steak place called Steak and Beer. Enough said. So Cowboy Dinner Tree, we're just going to let this kind of scroll through. This is lovely. Cowboy Dinner Tree, it's a little family-run place, literally in the middle of nowhere. The closest town is Silver Lake, which is a population of like 13 people. It's out in the middle of nowhere. They got power recently, as of like 5-6 years ago, but when I started going there, everything was run off of propane and a generator, so there's no electricity. They still only take cash because they have no card readers or anything, so it's cash only, reservation only, and when you place your reservation, they ask you, do you want steak or chicken? And you give them, well, it's a lot, dude, it's a lot of food. It's a whole chicken.
A whole one of those.
Or a 32 ounce top sirloin. It's served family style, so go with a group. And they start you off with a salad. It's got really, like, trust me, I don't mind eating a good steak, but I'll eat the food that my food eats sometimes. And the salad is really good. They put like cilantro in there and a bunch of good stuff, but their salad dressings, both the ranch and the honey mustard are scratch made, and they are fantastic. I will go there and they will sell you little mason jars of the ranch and honey mustard. I'll go and buy it. It's the best. You start off with a salad. They don't show it here, but you get a big old bowl of cowboy beans, which usually has chunks of leftover steak in it. And then you get a big old pie plate. They've actually really made this pretty because that's actually not how it looks. It's it's much more like it's an old like tin pie plate that you get, but it's a full pie plate of like these buttery dinner rolls that you smell. As soon as you walk in the door, you're just like, oh, you just smell butter roll. It's just the best. And so you eat your salad, your beans, and your rolls, and then you're full. And then your plate that is one half a 30-something ounce top sirloin, and the other half of the plate is an equally sized baked potato with all the fixings. And then after that, they don't have it shown here, but you also get like a little Marionberry cobbler dessert. And then they only have soft drinks, and I think they have like iced tea and lemonade, and that's it.
In a quart.
And and it's cash only, and it's fantastic.
How much is the
Back in the day, it was like 20-something bucks. I think they're up to like 40-something now. There you go.
There it is.
45 bucks. So it'll be a steak or a whole chicken. That is the meal. But this is stuff that you find out from just being out there. And when you're doing this backcountry discovery route or any BDR, sometimes these guys will even map out a good place to eat. I mean, they put it in the maps because they like to eat. That's how I discovered steaks and beer on the California BDR map. In the map, they put steaks and beer on here and marked it as a waypoint that you have to go to. And you're thinking, wow, you marked it as a waypoint to go to, it's going to be packed. Well, you got to consider where it is. It is in Tecopa Hot Springs in Tecopa, California. Google that. And you'd be like, yeah, that's like 50 miles from nowhere. And exactly, there's nobody there. It's like a town of like 10 people. And there's this random place that he's an ex-chef from Vegas. He worked at like the Caesar as one of the executive chefs, got tired of Vegas and decided to move out there, and he's got like 4 tables and 1 guy. The executive chef will come to your table, take your order, go back, cook your meal, bring your order back out, and it's a really good experience. Anyway, Cowboy Dinner Tree, again, just a stop to plan for when you're doing your routes. That's all I gotta say. It's just amazing. What a good tangent that was. Who's hungry for dinner? My goodness. All right, I gotta get this off my screen. I'm gonna start slobbering. But here's the town of Silver Lake. Here's East Bay Road and Cowboy Dinner Tree. Right there. I haven't marked it because I go there every time I go out there, but let's mark it. So I just created a waypoint. What's a good little fun icon? Here, fork and knife, love it. Let me save it. There we go, we are marked. So it's a little ways off of, sorry, let me get off the waypoint. It's a little ways off base. It's outside of Christmas Valley, which both of these routes kind of cross through. So the old BDR is this one here that goes to Christmas Valley and then heads northeast and spits you all the way out. It goes through the Ochicos, the Malheur, through the Wallowas, and spits you out in Walla Walla. Just a gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous route. The new one starts, like I said, kind of in Denio Fields area, takes you around the bottom of the Steens through Hart Mountain area, across the Big Flats into Christmas Valley, and then up. Actually, this area is pretty cool. There's crack in the ground, Green Mountain Fire Lookout, up through a lot of the volcanics area around Newberry Crater, Newberry Volcanic Monument, and then it starts kind of heading to the west, and it bebops up the Cascades and conveniently spits you out in Hood River, which is very, very close to the Washington BDR, which starts in Carson or Cascade Lakes. Cascade Locks, not Cascade Lakes. So anyway, you could go, their plan, let me zoom out, sorry. Here's this California South route, which ends right about here. They're working on a California North route, but their plan is to create a route that you could go from the Mexico border all the way to Canadian border, kind of following the western part of the US. They've got another one here that they're almost done with. So you've got Arizona, they also have New Mexico, I don't have it imported. But you could do Arizona to Utah, up through Idaho. Why is Idaho not showing up? Well, there's Idaho. To get to the border, or you could do California to Nevada to Idaho. You could do Arizona to Utah, or to Colorado to Wyoming, which just got released last year. And then they're working on Montana to the Canadian border. So if you really want to take a couple months off and just cross the country south to north entirely off-road, for the most part, I mean, you have to cross over a highway here and there, but you know what I mean? You can do it. They also have a couple routes that go through Appalachia and the Adirondacks and all that over here on the East Coast. But anyway, pretty stinking awesome. Cowboy Dinner Tree. There it is. Fork and knife. You can click on it. It's labeled. We are all happy because we know where it is now. And it's not that far off the route. So that is something that I would put in as I'm zooming through the route. That's something that you'd probably not notice because it is marked on GAIA. It says Cowboy Dinner Tree right there. So, that's stuff that I'll put a note there. I'll mark it and be like, that's a place we want to go check out. So that's sort of that process, all right? Planning. Okay. We're going to go, let's just fast forward. Let's say we've marked some campsites out that we want to go check out. We've got the whole route in here. Now it's time to go. I'm going to switch over real quick and show you my iPad. Boom. So here's, so I have it in like night mode because when that's in the car, it's a little bright in day mode. I want to go to the BDR. Let's see if it uploaded. Oh, it's an old iPad. I apologize. It's struggling. It is not yet. So let's get out of the app. We'll kill it for a second. All right, while that's doing its thing, I had to tell it to manually sync for some reason. I've used OnX. I used to use Motion X back in the day. I really liked Motion X, like way back in the day, like 12, 15 years ago. It was really good. And there's tons others, but I found that a lot of them, the when you download like a state, the files are massive. I mean, like gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes. And also, another thing, I don't typically download the satellite version, unless I like really need to know the satellite information. I'll usually just download the topo. Sorry, I'm popcorn. Sorry, guys. I usually just download the topographic version, but the cool thing about Gaia is you can download different kinds of maps. So, you know, like when you're using Google, you can have the street view, you can have the satellite view, or just the normal map view, or there's like the terrain view. Same thing with Gaia, but they use like proper mapping companies. So you can actually download US Forest Service maps. You can download all the open street views. They have their own topo map called the Gaia Overland map. I actually really like because that one they label a lot of points of interest in there. And that's what you've been viewing this whole time, like cowboy dinner tree, those kind of things. Those are all just labels that they throw in there. It's just a really good map to use. So, all right, we're all synced. Anyway, Gaia's map downloads, for whatever reason, their files are much smaller. The download takes way less time. And you can be up and running pretty quick without having to use a ton of space. So that was one of the other big selling points for me with Gaia. Another note, this particular iPad doesn't have a cellular chip in it. It is just a basic iPad. They call it the Wi-Fi only iPad. And then because like the cellular version to get the GPS antenna was like another $300 or something ridiculous. So I got that, and then one of these little dual Bluetooth pucks. You could also use like a little Garmin InReach Mini. Those can also pair to a device. Just some kind of little GPS antenna that I can stick out on my dash. And this one usually sits on my dash, and I have my phone right there. And this just Bluetooths to that. And so that's where it's getting all of its GPS information, which is kind of cool. So that's a really good way to do it. Actually, I don't have the GPS on, but that's the GPS app. It'll show you where your satellites are, show you your connection speed or your GPS coordinates and everything. And allow this to constantly track. That's its GPS antenna. So you can save a little bit of money and get a really cheap tablet for like a couple $100. One of these little GPS antennas, I think this one was like 69 or 79 bucks, and I've had it for ages. That thing just sits on my dash and just bakes in the sun all the time, and this stupid thing just works. And all it is a Bluetooth antenna that you just Bluetooth connect with your phone or your tablet or whatever. So nice thing is this can stay in your truck because this is kind of small and inconspicuous, and then you can take this inside with you, so you don't have to worry about somebody trying to steal your stuff. All right. That's a really cool thing to go see out in the middle of the desert. Highly suggest it. Nobody can probably read that from the back, but that's where an A6 Intruder crashed. It's really cool to go see. It's right there. All right, so our our sync has happened. Our route is now in this tablet. If I was connected to my GPS and we started bebopping along, it would start tracking us. So you can now have this navigating your route. You've got your route all the way on here with all of your waypoints, all of your little points of interest that you put in. Cowboy dinner tree that we just made the waypoint of. There it is. It's taking a little second. Let's pour iPad. Cool, right? So that's all in there. And I have this mounted with using a RAM mount, kind of down low, right here, kind of just out of my field of view. And I can glance at it every now and then and keep track of where I'm going. That is sort of my process for getting that route loaded and ready to rock and roll. Now, all that data transferred over, which is really nice. It's all attached to your account. So when we're doing this route, the one thing that is hard to do is sort of with something like this, it's not a turn-by-turn navigation like your like when you use Google or Apple Maps. It's not that type of navigation. It will track your position. It will show you on the line. But if you turn off the line, it won't say, hey, dummy, turn back the other way. It's expecting that you're smart enough to glance at this every now and then. So it's not a turn-by-turn, you know, where you just kind of tune out and you're just listening for something to tell you where to go. You do kind of have to watch and make sure that you're going the right way. So I'm just zooming in. So right now, since I'm on Wi-Fi, it's using the Wi-Fi to tell me, hey, I'm here, because I have that turned off, I believe. It's telling me where I'm at. There I'm at. There I'm at. That just happens to be us in Ironman, right? And as I turn, you can see that the arrow and my heading right up at the top there is changing as well. So it knows where you're at. And this is the same thing if it was just connected to the GPS antenna. So it always knows where you're at, and then you can just simply zoom in and out depending on how much information you want to see. I like to have it kind of just zoomed in enough to where I can see street names and things if I'm going through an urban area. If I'm out in the middle of nowhere, you know, let's say like something like this. So like there's several different modes. I'm tapping this kind of crosshair icon right here. This doesn't show keystrokes or anything like that, but so that's I tapped it and it's red, which brought me to where I'm at on the map. Now that's directional mode. Now the whole map rotates with my heading. And then that's sort of free roam mode where I can zoom and do around. And it's like, okay, I want to get back to where I'm at. Boom. Come on. Now I'm back where I'm at. Okay. So you can, and then you can reset your compass. So north, I like keeping my north up all the time on my map. Just helps me keep track of where I'm at and what direction I'm going. And then I like to see myself move, and it will scroll the map with you. So if you guys have a new vehicle or newer vehicle that has a head unit that supports Apple CarPlay or Android Auto or anything like that, and you have GAIA, it will play on there. I think OnX is working or has, I don't know if they are, but they're working on also being able to do that, but GAIA does. They do now? Good, okay. One that I was gonna share with you, good sir, was my little Nevada one that you wanted to go play on. So there's lots of things you can do. You can go to your saved items. Here's all the tracks and all the waypoints and all the things that I've put in here over time. And then you can just, like if I want to share this campsite, right? I click on it and I can go export, or I can just hit share, and off we go. So really easy to share stuff with your friends. That makes it so you don't have to. That was actually for a location scout. Yeah, that's Clear Lake. So, which by the way, this blue track, that is the Oregon BDR, so it goes around Clear Lake. So you can imagine how much fun Clear Lake's going to be already, more so than it is. That was for a location scout for us doing some filming for Ironman. Anyway, so you can share tracks with your friends by just going through that share process without making it a public track, which I highly recommend. So very, very helpful to do that way. But anyway, so we've got this now planned out here. We've done transcribing here. I've now got it in my tablet or my phone or whatever my device is. And we're good to go. I mean, this now will track us on the route. Like I said, every evening in camp, you know, once we kind of get to the first campsite, I'll maybe update the waypoint on my tablet and put some notes in there of the campsite if I really liked it or if it was kind of horrible. If it was really good, my process again was I recorded in here. And then I'll glance through and just see, you know, on my tablet, I'll do it on this since this is plugged in, but I'll glance through and just look at, okay, what does the next day hold? We just finished this blue section and we're camping, let's say we're camping down here at 3 Creek Butte, which is hard for you guys to read, I'm sure, in the back. Let's say we're camping on top of that. Hopefully it's not too windy. But I'll look at, okay, what does the next section look like? Okay, it's this purple section. And I'll dive in and okay, we go through Sisters and we peel off here, just north of the highway. Oh, cool, it's a fun little butte. My friends and I, we love driving up on top of buttes and getting views. That's kind of my thing. I love doing that. So that's kind of cool. We'll just scan through. Oh, they decided to put a waypoint here for something. What is that? Dugout Lake. That sounds kind of cool. It looks like it's just off on the Forest Road 1030-350. That might be kind of cool to go check out. And you know that's just a quick little jaunt off. And if you zoom way in, GAIA will give you mileage distance between these two dots. So I know that's a 0.4 of a mile, there's 0.2 there, and then 1.9 to the next dot, which is way over there. So you figure, okay, that lake is, call it a mile, maybe, yeah, because 1.9 is all the way back to that. So yeah, mile off the road, mile out, mile back. That's worth it for a quick little, exploratory mission to go check out a lake. Could be a good swimming hole, good fishing hole. Could be dried up and horrible. You don't know. Or you could take a bath. Yes. Thank you for that. But anyway, a couple other things I wanted to mention. Obviously, this is a pretty in-depth tool. I mean, there's a lot you can do with it. We covered a lot of just the very basics, but those basics are enough for you to get a route in here on your devices and get going. So, and that's all you really need for the navigation side. Let's just say this was my tablet, or let's say this was my Apple CarPlay in my truck. It's honestly like it's good training for people to do. We don't get to do it very often, but it's very good training to look at a map and start thinking about your turns and visualize the route, looking at landmarks, towns, or whatever, and then just try to drive it. It's really good practice to do, and it will help build your confidence and your skill set in just backcountry navigation in general, because you're training your brain to look at landmarks that are on a map and transcribe that to what you're seeing in real life and still be able to have a direction. I mean, I've got 2 known points, right? So that if we were following this and let's say our little truck icon arrow was showing we're here, and I know Cowboy Dinner Tree's there, I can see that there's several little trails that'll get through there. And looking at on a legend of map, the type of line here is going to tell you the type of road. And that's one thing I like about Garmin Overland, not Garmin, the GAIA Overland map is, this is going to be like a gravel dirt road. This is going to be literally a 2-track. This is a paved highway. So you can kind of start thinking, okay, if we did this gravel road, this will probably take a lot more time than it would just to cruise this highway. And it just helps train your brain on figuring out, kind of making those split-second decisions or even just sort of calculated decisions in the backcountry on, taking fun side excursions and doing it by more of a heading technique and recognizing landmarks and things. As long as you have a piece of paper called a map that doesn't take batteries, and you do something like this and do your prep work ahead of the trip, all you got to do is just follow the track, and these little things will track with you and just follow the line. It's pretty simple there. And it's one way of doing it. I think it's a very easy, cost-effective way to do it. The nice thing, again, about GPS tracks and GPX files is you can download them into just about any device, and you're up and running. And once you start kind of getting into the realm of sharing GPS tracks with friends and your buddies and stuff, or there's even off-road and overland communities that have a lot of track sharing. Certainly you could throw the switch on this horribleness and see all kinds of nonsense, but there's a lot of cool ways to discover things in the backcountry by just sharing routes with people. Anyway, that's the whole thing. It's a simple process, but if you develop a good process of honestly like keeping a paper map in, because I've had times where this old iPad literally just didn't want to turn on in the morning. Hopped in the truck, it showed a battery's fully charged, but it's just like, nope, not gonna work. Technology will fail, guaranteed. So that day we navigated to page 36, and we were driving page 36 all day. And you know what? It worked a treat. We just paid very close attention to what road we were on, and thankfully there were road markers every now and then. The little brown stakes with the little numbers on them. So we pay attention to those landmarks, right? So we know where the heck we're at, and make sure that, okay, we know that in our scale on the bottom of here, in 1 mile, we're going to be turning left on National Forest Road 2266. So we're thinking, okay, odometer, reset look for a mile. Once we hit a mile, okay, there should be a road left somewhere. Oh, there's a road. Oh crap, there's another road right next to it. Okay, well, which one's 2266? You look for a sign. It's a little bit slower process, but totally doable. And it doesn't ruin your trip when a device decides to take a dump on you. So that's why I transcribe the route on this monstrosity. Because I can't tell you how many times this has kept a trip from failing. Because this does not take batteries. But don't get this wet. Don't put it in the campfire. That would ruin it. I suppose you could use it as emergency toilet paper if you really had to, but let's go back to the route. I'll show you something to do as soon as the snow melts. Because this northern section is very snowy right now. But we all know where Timberline Lodge, Government Camp, you guys all know where Government Camp is. Go up to Government Camp and then get onto Highway 35 from Highway 26 like you're gonna go to Mount Hood Meadows, and take the exit from Mount Hood Meadows. And then there's a, here's the exit here. There's a snow park. Instead of looping around going up to Mount Hood Meadows, you turn right into Bennett Pass Snow Park. That is the Oregon BDR. But anyway, that's something that you could just go do and go explore and maybe, you know, do a quick overnight. And I'll scroll up here.
That's the new BDR, not the old one?
This is the new one.
Okay.
Right here is an incredible, this is my mark. This is not the BDR people's mark. This is an incredible campsite with an incredible view. Please don't all go camp there.
You can add pictures.
You can, yeah. You can add pictures. You can do all kinds of stuff. I didn't add a picture. But if you're quick and you can take a photo of the coordinates, and if you know how to punch them in, oop, too late. Anyway, I'll zoom out. I'll show you kind of where it is. There's Highway 35. From this campsite, you can see Mount Hood. You can see Mount Jefferson. You can see Mount Adams, all from your chair. It's gorgeous. There's even a better one up just off of the Washington BDR where you can see Jefferson, Hood, Adams, Rainier, and Helens, all from your chair around the campfire. And it's just literally out in the middle of nowhere. Oh, so much fun. I love that. That's my best part about it. I have this addiction of finding the epic campsite. And it's like a hunt, you know. So far, this is my benchmark of what that I'm trying to beat. But this is sort of why we do this. So that's all I had tonight. So thank you guys for coming out. I will stick around, and I'm happy to dive into anything else that you want one-on-one here, but I'll stick around for a little bit. But thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you guys all next Thursday. Yes? Yay. All right. Thank you guys.